Hello, my name is Jason and I'm the Game Master. I cover everything Pathfinder 2nd Edition, including in-depth adventure path reviews, tips for players, and hints on how to hit the elite template on your GMing. I'm also a full-time professional Game Master, so if you'd like to play a game with me, check me out on startplaying.com, links below. Pathfinder 2nd Edition has a metric buttload of consumable items. Honestly, it's a bit overwhelming at times. Many of them are going to be highly situational, so it's hard to pour through everything to see if, what's the right thing for what you need right now. In this video, I'm going to go over 5 items of each levels 1 through 3, and highlight some of what are the most useful things that you might or may not know about. In the right situation, they could help turn the tide in your favor because, as we all know, every +1 matters. These items don't include anything other than common rarity, and I stayed away from things that you can only find in adventure paths. I didn't include bombs or poisons because I feel like those are kind of like their own thing. I did include things like ammunitions and obviously oils and such. Not all of these are going to fit into every single situation, of course, and some of them I just picked because I thought that they sounded cool. So with all that said, let's get into it. Level 1 starts with vaccine. I just ran a combat not too long ago with a demon that uses diseases as a major part of its attacks. This can grant you immunity to a specific strain of a disease up to the vaccine's level and an item bonus to other strains of the same disease. The example here is that vaccine can grant you immunity to an OTUGs, I think it's OTUG, how do you say that? Filth fever, and then give a +2 to the filth fever that you could contract from a giant rat. Things that grant immunities are very rare, and if you're fighting things that are handing out things like diseases like candy, this could save your life. There are some very nasty ones out there that can really disable your character, and they can be pretty annoying to get rid of, so just not having to worry about it is awesome. Recall knowledge is going to be handy here so that you know what kind of vaccine you need, and take the time to make those rolls ahead of time if you think it's going to be something you're going to contend with. Remember, forewarned is forearmed. Mobility is king in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. With reactive strikes being somewhat rare, the ability to get into a new position is critical in any fight. If your GM is like me, they may like to include different types of terrain and different heights and such into their maps to encourage players to think more tactically in the middle of combat. Leaper's Elixir lets you save on the action economy and make those jumps that you maybe have to make for only one action. This can be especially important for spellcasters. If making that long jump puts you in a safer position, they still have 2 actions left to cast a spell. Nobody likes to eat a reactive strike, but if you're going to get one anyway, it's better to take it on the move action, which most of the time can't be interrupted, rather than when you're casting a spell, which can on a critical hit. If jumping rules in general are kind of overlooked at sometimes, so don't forget about them, as any way you have to move around in the battlefield is just another tool in your disposal. Speaking of mobility, another great item to have at your disposal is a Cheetah's Elixir. Don't scoff at a 5-foot bonus. I've seen 5 feet make a big difference, whether it's being in range of a helpful buff, being outside of the range of a devastating aura, or just plain running away. That little bit extra can really pay off in the end. Remember, it's 5 feet extra per move action, so potentially it could be another 15 feet on your turn, or more if you're hasted. The importance of movement and move speed in general is something that I really like about this system. Back when I was playing D&D 5th edition, I was always trying to find ways to make fights more dynamic and incorporate more movement. But it was very hard because movement in battle is actively discouraged with everything having reactive strikes. For new players, these small bonuses can seem like kind of a waste, like it's not really worth it. But once you've played the system for a while, you know how valuable they can be, and for 3 gold pieces, it's a bargain. Gecko Potion can be a big help to PCs who are a bit lacking in the strength department, but still need to find a way to climb up that cliff. Climbing is a very black and white activity in TTRPGs. Either your dice are good and it's basically nothing, or your dice fail you and you're plummeting to your doom. There's something I find deeply satisfying about PCs falling off of cliffs, but I'm a pretty horrible person, so you may think differently, and if you do, you should buy Gecko Potion. It also helps with disarm attempts, which, since the remaster, are actually kind of worth it. That was a welcome change, as before it was just a waste of time. I don't think I would buy it just for that, as if I'm targeting a PC with disarm, it's likely they're going to be a melee fighter anyway that already has good strength, so they don't really need any help climbing anyway. But if you're a strength challenged witch or wizard or sorcerer, it might be worth having an extra one of these in your back pocket. Sometimes the fight just doesn't go your way. Your spell loadout is wrong, the dice hate you, the gods have been angered, and you just need to run. That's what the Potion of Emergency Escape is for. For 1 minute, you gain the Fleeing condition and a 40-foot bonus to your move speed. You're advancing to the rear at warp speed. It's not a potion that you're going to be proud of using, but it's better to be alive than remembered as that really brave dead person. I've noticed that Pathfinder players tend to be more willing to run away than D&D players, and that's smart. It's probably because the combat is generally a bit more tougher and the APs are consistently a little bit more difficult. It's a good item for everyone to have one of because being fleeing for a minute is going to take you out of the fight completely. It's better to be doing this as a group. If you don't do that and someone else needs help and you're the person that had the skill to be able to do it, you're not going to be able to do it. Leaving a person behind who stayed in the battle is going to be really rough on them, so I would coordinate your usage of this so that way you can all hit the emergency eject button at the same time. Level 2 starts off with Bravo's Brew. There are no good saves to fail here, but will saves can be some of the worst. Bravo's Brew gives you a +1 to all will saves and a +2 to things that have the fear trait. Frightened is a very common condition, but it's a useful tool on both sides of the table. Many creatures have an aura that causes the frightened condition, like dragons or such, and it's very hard or impossible to shake off once you've failed that initial save. Confusion is another spell that's often found in a creature's spell list, and another one you really don't want to fail. Bravo's Brew gives you that extra little bit of insurance against the spells that not only make your life harder, but can turn you into a liability in the middle of a fight and at the worst possible time. The Sicken condition is annoying for a few different reasons. It gives you a negative to all your checks and DCs, and you can't ingest anything, meaning that healing potions are a no-go. It costs an action to retch, and it's against the DC of the original source of the Sicken condition, which can be worse than a flat check. Not to mention the Sicken condition actively works against your attempt to retch, so this can really start to snowball on you. It's at least with other persistent effects, you get the check for free at the end of your turn, but that's not the case with Sicken. Emetic Paste gives you a +2 to this check, and you get to make it immediately after applying the potion. Even if you fail that check, the bonus still stays for an hour. So if you can actually use this to pre-buff if you're going to be fighting a creature that can give you the second condition, and a +2 at lower levels is a significant bonus, and it lasting for an hour makes it more than worth the 5 gold. Surging Serum is basically treat condition in a bottle. It grants a counteract check versus clumsy or enfeebled, using a counteract modifier based on the level of the serum that you're using. Clumsy and enfeebled are conditions that can stack pretty high and last a really long time, and especially they pair with other conditions really easily. Clumsy 2 and being off guard at the same time is a real quick and easy way to get your AC lower by 4 and make that critical hit all the more likely against you, plus whatever bad stuff is coming with that. The nice part about Surging Serum to it is there's no degrees of success to it. If it works, the condition is just completely cleared. Compare that to Treat Condition, where even on a critical success, the condition is only reduced by 2. Sure, your counteract modifier is likely to be higher than the one in Surging Serum, but all the attempts you can get at this are good. As I said, clumsy and enfeebled are conditions that can last for a long time. So having these effects lasting over multiple combats, it's going to cost you eventually. And if you don't take care of these as soon as possible, you're going to wish that you did. Oil of Skating is another cheap way to get an increase to your movement speed. It allows you to apply an oil to the bottom of your feet and increase your movement by 10 feet for 1 hour. You lose it if you go onto any kind of difficult terrain or uneven ground, but the increase in movement speed is going to help you kind of avoid that stuff anyway, so you're almost always going to be gaining a lot more than you lose by this. I also just like the idea of a PC skating and sliding around the battlefield like a hockey player. Honestly, with all like the crazy effects and stuff that people can do in this game, it's funny to just like take a moment in the middle of a combat to just really visualize what's going on, because it can be pretty silly. And oil of skating is one of those things that just makes me laugh to think about it. I was recently running a campaign where the PCs had to sneak onto a ship and acquire some documents. The documents were written in a language that thankfully one of them spoke, but if they didn't have that PC around, or if that PC couldn't speak that language, they'd be missing out on a lot of plotline stuff and the valuable clues that they needed to go where to go next. Comprehension Elixir is there for when you don't have that PC and you just didn't think to take the right language. It only works on common languages, but I think there's room here for GMs who want to create a higher level version of this that works with uncommon languages or rare, or if that's what you need in your game. I've had a few situations where people have been locked out of conversations because their character didn't speak the right language, and it feels pretty awkward. People just want the game to move forward, and everybody wants to participate. And fiddling around with who knows what language, and it's not really what people want to be doing at that time. And it's better to just have solutions for these issues, unless it's a major part of your campaign. Bleed and poison damage are two of the most common forms of persistent damage in Pathfinder, and they can be very difficult to get rid of. It's especially deadly if somebody goes down, because they're going to be piling on failed recovery checks at the end of the turn every time they take that damage. These are the times when you need a blood booster. The third level version of this grants you resistance 5 for 10 minutes to all bleed and poison damage, persistent damage. That's pretty high, as at least at low levels, persistent damage seems like it doesn't typically go above maybe a D6 or so. This will be saving your life if you go down, and it's very much worth these 7 gold piece investment. Potions like these are a form of insurance. Nobody wants to have to use them, but we're not playing Skyrim here. Having 99 potions in a stack doesn't do you any good if you're just sitting there watching your health tick down and you're already browsing Path Builder to see what's the next character you're going to play. On the face of it, Potion of Retaliation looks pretty unimpressive. 4 gold is buying you a faint aura that does exactly 1 damage of acid, cold, electricity, or fire to any creature that touches you with an unarmed attack. But the real juice of this is triggering weaknesses. If you know that a creature has a weakness to fire, let's say, like your favorite troll, giving one of these to your frontliner is going to grant them big bonuses to their damage every time they get hit, and plus in the case of a troll, it's shutting down their regen too. At the higher levels, this potion has a sort of like a splash damage effect, so it's very possible to be doing an extra 20, 30 more damage around extra with just a 4 gold potion. This is a huge amount of extra damage for no cost after just drinking the potion. The higher versions of these do more like the initial damage, but even the base version of this potion is more than pulling its weight, even at the highest levels of play. And if you're putting it on multiple different PCs that are standing next to each other, taking care of those trolls or whatever other creature, this is going to be a lot of extra damage for very little cost. Kiting is a viable tactic in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Slowing down a creature, making it use extra actions to close distance, limiting the amount of people caught up in a pesky aura are all tools that players can use to get through a difficult fight. On a target, the creature, on a successful hit, the creature takes a -10 to all its movement speeds, including things like flying and climbing, for 2d4 rounds or until it spends an action trying to escape. On a critical hit, it's immobilized. Things that reduce movement speed aren't super common, and they can help you slow down a creature who's already outpacing you if you're trying to create distance. I rarely see this, but just taking 2 strikes and then moving back can be a devastating tactic if you're then forcing the creature to use 2 actions to get back to you in order to strike you, especially if you're hitting them with reactive strikes on their way in. If the melee types are dodging in and out of range, striking the creature, but it can't get back to them with 1 action, the creature is severely hampered with what it can do. Turning the action economy into your favor is critical, and every action that a creature spends moving is 1 action it's not using to attack you. Sneaking is a risky game in Pathfinder, and it takes a long time to get really good at it. Camouflage Die, though, gives you access to some of the effects of Legendary Sneak, which is a 15th level skill feat for 10 minutes as a 3rd level item. You activate it by sprinkling it on yourself with an interact action, and then basically you're the predator. You're able to hide or sneak without cover or any kind of concealment. Normal rules still apply. You need to move half your movement or slower, and any hostile action will end the effect. But it does make those scouting missions a lot easier. A rogue who uses this and has taken Swift Sneak can use this to save themselves a skill feat, or if they invest in the 7th level version of this or higher, they can move at full speed and even use hostile actions without ending the effect. I'm not gonna lie, Diplomat's charcuterie is just kind of here because I think it's funny. By consuming these delicious snacks, consisting of cheese and sausages, hot peppers, curds, and nuts, and some other stuff I'm sure, sounds pretty good. You get a +1 to diplomacy checks to make an impression, and perception checks to sense motive. Where I see this going in one of my games, after having taken a prisoner, some of the parties intimidating them, being bad cop and worse cop, now they can do this, but with snacks. This is one of those things that you never knew you wanted until you knew it existed. Honestly, though, it is very hard to get any sort of bonuses to these sorts of checks, so if you need them, and it's the thing that's going to make the difference, investing in one of these could be just the thing. And that's it. Levels 1 through 3 of some awesome consumables that you should have, just in case. I'll be back with another installment of this and the other videos I'm working on soon, so stay tuned for those. And if you like what you saw and you'd like to join a campaign with me, check me out on startplaying.com and join me over on my Discord too. As always, please hit those like and subscribe buttons, leave a comment, and maybe I'll send you some delicious snacks. I won't. I'll see you next time. This is the Game Master.